this is the action button, and it was introduced with the iPhone 15 Pro series. It was also one of Apple's key selling points for the iPhone 15 Pro series. But was the action button really necessary, and is it just overhyped? Well, let's find out. So the action button is placed just above the volume buttons on the iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max, and it can be set to do several different actions. I initially set up my action button to open up ChatGPT to use it as my main AI, since Siri is basically useless, and ChatGPT is so much better and natural sounding. But ChatGPT has its limits. It can't really perform any actions on my phone. So now my action button is just set to open up the camera. Now the question is, if we needed a whole new button for all this. You see, the action button is supposed to be a button that can be used as a shortcut button. But as you can see, it is kinda tucked up in the corner, like the mute switch. But the mute switch was supposed to be tucked away, so when you didn't want to be surprised by a loud ringtone, or were just waiting for an important call, you could turn on or turn off the mute switch, which probably happened once in a while. A shortcut button, however, should be placed so it could be used more effectively and often. I personally use my camera a lot, since I like taking pictures and videos if I come across something cool. So the action button being placed tucked up in the corner makes me reach over every time. Very often when I want to take a quick picture of something, I have to use my other hand to reach for the action button. Because the one time I tried to reach over to the action button using only one hand, my phone fell down and I actually cracked my screen protector. But there's actually one shortcut feature that can be used as the action button with only one hand, and it's the Backtap-feature. With this, you can configure your phone to do specific actions with either 2 or 3 taps, which is basically like a built-in action button in the back. Now, I set mine to open up the camera with 2 taps, to test out how effective it is compared to the action button. I found it easier to use since I don't need both of my hands to use this feature. So, is the replacement of the mute switch with the action button really necessary? And why did we need an extra button for shortcuts when we already have the Backtap feature? Well, even though it might seem like the action button is a bad replacement for the mute switch itself could only perform only one action, and that was muting or unmuting. With the action button, you can custom program the button to make it do whatever you want. And what's not on this list, you can make it with the shortcut feature and then set the action button to do it. For example, you can make a custom camera opening action that can snap a picture without opening up the camera app. Yeah, there are pretty much endless things you can do with the action button. Seen from this perspective, you could say that replacing the mute switch, which only could do one thing, with a button that can be programmed to do more seems actually really good. Now, even if the Backtap feature is easy and more effective to use, it doesn't mean that it is problem free. And the problem is that it isn't that reliable. Half of the times I try to use this feature, my phone doesn't recognize the taps, so I have to manually go to my home screen and find the camera app. So with all of that said, is the action button Apple's worst invention ever? Well, I have to say no. Even though the action button is badly placed and the iPhones already have the Backtap feature, the action button is still a good replacement for the mute switch. Because now you have a physical button that can literally do anything, instead of the mute switch, which only could do one thing. But one thing I can say though is that the action button was definitely overhyped. And that's my opinion on the action button. What are your thoughts? Be sure to leave them in the comment section below, and I will see you next time.